The rain had been falling all night, tapping against my office window like it had a message to deliver. I lit my last cigarette and watched the smoke curl into the shadows. Cases had been slow, and my bills were piling up faster than my patience. I was just about to close up when the phone rang. Her voice was trembling, but there was steel beneath it. "Detective Carter? My brother's missing. And I think someone killed him." I wrote down her name, Emily Rowe. She said her brother, Daniel, vanished 2 nights ago after leaving the Rusty Lantern Bar on Miller Street. No signs, no messages, and the police weren't doing much. By the time I met Emily, the rain had soaked the city to its bones. She handed me a small photograph, Daniel, mid-laugh, holding a glass of beer. On the back, in messy handwriting, "Don't trust them." I asked who them was. Emily hesitated, eyes darting to the dark corners of the cafe. "You'll know when they find you," she whispered. That night, I drove to Miller Street. The bar was nearly empty, just a bartender polishing glasses and a drunk asleep in the corner. But as I stepped inside, I noticed something scratched into the wood of the bar counter, 3 intersecting circles. And when I touched the carving, a man in a black coat at the far end of the bar turned his head slowly toward me. His eyes were cold and knowing. Then he smiled. His smile wasn't friendly. It was the kind that made you want to check if the door was still behind you. He raised his glass in my direction, as if we were old friends, then drained it in one slow swallow. I approached, keeping my hand close to the revolver under my coat. "You know Daniel Rowe?" I asked. His smile didn't fade. "Everyone on Miller Street knows Daniel." He tapped the bar twice with his finger, once, twice, pause, then slid off his stool and walked toward the exit. I followed him into the alley. The rain was heavier here, drumming on the metal trash bins. He lit a cigarette, the flare of the match illuminating a thin scar across his cheek. "You shouldn't be here, detective," he said without looking at me. "And why's that?" "Because Daniel was just the beginning." Before I could push him for more, tires screeched at the mouth of the alley. A black sedan stopped, its windows tinted. 2 figures stepped out, both wearing gloves. The man in the black coat gave me a look that was part warning, part pity, and then he ran. The 2 newcomers didn't chase him. They were coming for me. One reached into his jacket. I drew my revolver, but something cold and metallic pressed against the back of my neck. A third man had been behind me the whole time. The metal at my neck was a gun barrel. I didn't need to look to know it. "Drop it," the voice behind me said. Calm, professional. I let my revolver fall to the wet pavement. One of the men in front stepped closer, his leather gloves gleaming under the streetlight. "Detective Carter," he said, like he was greeting a dinner guest. "You're making inquiries that could get you misplaced." I kept my voice even. "Missing people is my specialty." That earned me a slow smile. He pulled something from his coat, not a weapon, but a small, folded piece of paper. He tossed it at my feet. "Leave Miller Street alone," he said. "Or next time, it won't be a warning." They backed away, the third man lowering his gun. A moment later, the sedan disappeared into the night, tires hissing against the wet asphalt. I picked up the paper. On it was a single phrase in block letters. 3 circles. 1 truth. Stop digging. The same 3 intersecting circles I'd seen carved into the bar counter. I pocketed the note and headed back to my office, but when I stepped inside I froze. On my desk sat a fresh cup of coffee. Steam still curling from it. I hadn't left it there. The smell of coffee mixed with the faint scent of cigarette smoke, not mine. I scanned the shadows of my office. Then I saw her. Emily Rowe was sitting in my chair, legs crossed, as if she owned the place. "Nice place you've got," she said softly. "But you really need better locks." I closed the door behind me. "Care to explain why you're breaking into my office, Emily?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she slid a brown envelope across the desk. Inside were photographs, grainy, taken at night, showing Daniel meeting with 3 different people in the same alley where I'd just been threatened. In every picture, the 3-circle symbol was visible, on a wall, on a jacket, even scratched into a lamppost. "I didn't tell you everything earlier," Emily said. Her voice was steady now, but her hands trembled. "Daniel was looking into something called the Meridian Circle. It's not just a gang. It's bigger. Older." I leaned back, processing. "And now you think they killed him?" Emily's eyes met mine, sharp and unflinching. "No, Detective. I think they took him alive. And if we don't find him soon, we won't want to." Before I could reply, the phone rang. I picked it up. A low, distorted voice spoke 3 words. "He's still breathing." Then the line went dead. The sound of that voice still echoed in my head as I hung up the phone. Emily leaned forward. "Who was it?" I shook my head. "Didn't say. But they know where Daniel is." I dialed the number back. No answer, just a dead line. Whoever it was didn't want to be found. But the way they spoke, there was no panic, no rush. Just certainty. Emily slid another photo from her envelope, one I hadn't noticed before. It showed Daniel inside a warehouse, the 3-circle symbol painted in red on the wall behind him. In the corner of the shot, blurred but visible, was the man in the black coat. "Where was this taken?" I asked. Emily bit her lip. "I don't know. Daniel sent it to me 2 days before he disappeared. No address, no message." A thought struck me. I grabbed my coat and revolver. "There's one place in this city where people disappear and no one asks questions," I said. Emily followed me into the rain. We drove through the back streets until the warehouses loomed like sleeping giants. We were almost there when I noticed headlights in the rearview mirror. Same black sedan. And this time, it was speeding up. The sedan closed in fast, its engine growling in the rain. "Hold on," I told Emily, yanking the wheel hard to the right. We skidded into a narrow alley, tires screaming. The sedan followed. I pushed the gas, weaving through side streets, praying I remembered the old dock layout well enough to lose them. Every time I turned, their headlights swung behind us like a predator's eyes. Emily clutched the dashboard. "They're not trying to stop us," she said, voice shaking. "They're hurting us." She was right. They weren't aiming to ram us, they were forcing us toward the industrial district. Ahead, the cracked asphalt gave way to the looming shadow of a warehouse, the same one from the photo. I hit the brakes hard, skidding sideways in front of the building. Before the sedan could corner us, I grabbed Emily's hand and ran for the rusted side door. It was unlocked. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of oil and dust. Dim light seeped through cracks in the boarded-up windows. In the center of the floor was the 3-circle symbol, painted fresh, glistening under the weak light. And lying at the edge of it was Daniel's watch. Still ticking. I picked up the watch, feeling its weight in my palm. The second hand moved smoothly, but the glass face was cracked, as if it had been dropped during a struggle. Emily stared at it like it might start speaking. "It's his," she whispered. Footsteps echoed from somewhere above us. Slow. Deliberate. I drew my revolver, signaling Emily to stay behind me. We moved toward the staircase at the far corner of the warehouse, each creak of the old wood sounding like a gunshot in the silence. Halfway up, I saw a shadow move across the landing. "Daniel?" I called. No answer, just more footsteps, this time quicker, retreating deeper into the upper floor. We followed the sound to a door with a heavy padlock hanging open. I pushed it in. The room inside was empty except for a single chair and a bare light bulb swaying from the ceiling. On the seat was a cassette player. I pressed play. Daniel's voice, shaky but clear, filled the room. "If you're hearing this, I'm still alive. But don't trust." The tape cut off. And behind us, the warehouse door slammed shut. The slam echoed through the warehouse like a gunshot. Emily's eyes went wide. "Someone's here." I moved toward the staircase, revolver ready, but before I reached the bottom, a floodlight blazed through the cracked windows. Shadows leapt across the walls. A voice boomed from outside, distorted through a loudspeaker. "Detective Carter! Leave the girl and walk away. You have one chance." I glanced at Emily. She shook her head fiercely. "Don't you dare!" The voice repeated the demand, slower this time, like I was a child who hadn't been listening. Then came the sound of metal scraping. The floodlight swung, revealing 4 men in dark coats advancing toward the side door. I pulled Emily toward the back of the warehouse, searching for another exit. We found a rusted metal hatch half hidden behind stacked crates. It opened into a narrow tunnel that smelled of seawater and rust. We crawled through the darkness until faint moonlight appeared ahead. The tunnel spat us out behind the warehouse, right on the edge of the docks. I thought we'd escaped, until I saw the man in the black coat standing there, hands in his pockets, blocking our path. And he was smiling again. The dock wind whipped at his coat, but he didn't move. "Detective," he said, like we were picking up a conversation we paused hours ago. "You're getting in deeper than you realize." I tightened my grip on the revolver. "Then explain it to me." He shook his head. "Not here. Too many eyes." He glanced at Emily. "And too many people who don't understand the rules." Emily stepped forward. "Where's my brother?" That was the first time I saw his smile fade. He looked almost regretful. "He's alive. For now. But the Meridian Circle doesn't forgive mistakes, and Daniel made one they can't ignore." I asked. "And what mistake is that?" The man in the black coat hesitated, then reached into his pocket. I almost pulled the trigger, but instead of a weapon, he handed me a folded slip of paper. "Midnight," he said. "Pier 17. Come alone if you want the truth." Before I could ask more, footsteps echoed behind us, the dark-coated men from the warehouse, closing in. When I turned back, the man in the black coat was gone. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time I reached Pier 17. Midnight painted the docks in silver and shadow. The air was thick with the smell of salt and diesel. Emily had wanted to come, but I made her stay behind. If this was a trap, and it probably was, she'd be safer out of sight. A lone figure waited at the far end of the pier, leaning against a rusted bollard. It was the man in the black coat. "You came," he said quietly. "You said you had the truth," I replied. He lit a cigarette, the ember flaring in the dark. "The Meridian Circle isn't just a gang," he began. "It's a network, politicians, cops, businessmen. They trade secrets, favors, and sometimes, people." Daniel stumbled onto their shipment. "What kind of shipment?" I asked. He flicked ash into the water. "Evidence. Enough to bring the whole thing down. But the Circle wants it back, and they'll kill anyone in the way. Including you?" I stepped closer. "Where is Daniel?" The man's jaw tightened. "In a safe house. For now. I can take you there, but once we move him, the Circle will know." A faint hum grew louder. I turned and saw headlights cutting through the mist. A convoy of black sedans rolled onto the pier. The man in the black coat dropped his cigarette into the water. "Too late," he muttered. Engines roared as the sedans stopped at the pier's edge. Doors flew open, and a dozen men in dark coats stepped out, forming a wall between us and the street. The man in the black coat didn't flinch. "Stay behind me," he said. I didn't listen. I stepped forward, revolver raised. "Where's Daniel?" I demanded. One of the men, taller than the rest, face hidden under a hood, called out, "Give us the package, Carter, and you'll walk away breathing." "I don't have any package," I shot back. The hooded man laughed. "Then I suppose you have no use for this." He snapped his fingers, and 2 of his men dragged someone from the back of a sedan. "Daniel." His hands were bound, a strip of duct tape across his mouth, but his eyes were wide and desperate. Emily had been right, he was alive. I stepped forward, but the hooded man raised a pistol to Daniel's head. "One step closer, detective, and your case closes permanently." The man in the black coat leaned toward me and whispered, "When I say now, run to him." "What about you?" I asked. He gave me that faint, dangerous smile. "I'm not planning on running." The hooded man's pistol gleamed under the dock lights. The rain had stopped, but the air was electric, like the whole pier was holding its breath. The man in the black coat stepped forward, hands raised. "You want the package? It's here." He patted his coat pocket. "But you'll have to take it off me." The hooded man signaled his men. Two advanced toward him. Then the black coat shouted, "Now!" I ran. My boots pounded against the wet wood as I charged Daniel. The man in the black coat moved like a blade through the dark, taking down the two nearest men before they could react. Gunfire erupted. Splinters flew from the pier's railing. I reached Daniel, yanked the tape from his mouth, and cut his hands free. "Run!" I barked. Daniel didn't hesitate. We sprinted toward the far end of the pier, but behind us, the fight raged, fists, shots, shouts. Then came a deafening explosion. A flash of fire lit the night as one of the sedans went up in flames, the shockwave knocking us off our feet. When I looked back, the man in the black coat was gone. The pier was chaos, circle men scattering, some dragging the hooded man into another car. Sirens wailed in the distance. Daniel and I didn't stop running until the city swallowed us. Later, in the quiet of my office, Daniel handed me a small, waterproof envelope. Inside was a flash drive. "This is what they wanted," he said. "Don't lose it." I asked what was on it. He looked out the window at the rain starting again. "Enough to burn the Meridian Circle to the ground. But if we use it, they'll never stop coming." I poured us both coffee, my mind already racing. This wasn't over. Not even close. And somewhere out there, the man in the black coat was still watching.